still we grind. From the darkness to the light we claim. Still humble in the struggle, still proud of our name.
All right, welcome back to season 2, episode 10. We are coming along with this season. I'm so proud of all of the guests that's been coming on so far. They've been sharing some really emotional, powerful stories from the previous episodes. But today, without further ado, let's welcome Jason Phillips today here. We're gonna be talking about how does success become inner pain here. So let's go ahead and get into the introduce yourself, where you're from, and then we'll get into the conversation today.
Yeah, Daron, thank you for having me. So I'm originally from Detroit. So shout out to anybody from Detroit. What up, though? But for the past 10 years, I've been outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. As far as background, I've been in the mental health and coaching profession for about 15 years. I've worked in a lot of different spaces, community mental health, private practice. And more recently, I've started expanding work with organizations. So I do a lot of speaking, helping them improve their morale and employee development.
Yeah, so take us a little bit back to why you got into coaching and mental health. What inspired you? Like friends or family, or you was going through some personal issues yourself? What kind of inspired you to go to
Yeah,
become?
great question. So from early childhood, I've always been curious about why people do certain things. Like you can have a household of 5 people, and you may see one person go and be really successful. They have a wonderful family, a thriving career, and then in that same household, you may have somebody else who really struggles significantly with certain, maybe depression, could be substance abuse. So that's what led me to study the field of psychology, and then more so that's what kind of got me into the background. And then expanding to coaching as a therapist, I was helping people with their anxiety and depression and trauma. But then at some point, when people were, I would say, quote unquote, healed from that, they wanted to thrive and not just survive. And that's what attracted me to being a coach as well, because people still needed support, but just in a different manner.
Yeah, and I always give grace and gratitude to the mental health professionals because it's at a high time alarm rate right now.
Mhm.
Men are killing themselves left and right. So, I really commend you for doing something and taking a step out of your own comfort zone to do this profession. So you'll get kudos for me because as much as I love talking about mental health, I don't think I want to be a therapist because
It's all good.
I'm
Yeah.
still working on a lot of trauma and healing myself. So I say that to the professionals.
Yeah, and that's what kind of intrigued me to come on your platform is because you do specialize in working with men and men's mental health. We're just not talking about it at the rate that we should. Most of my career was spent working with either women, and then when I work with the military, it's been more white men. But as far as actual black men coming in to seek care, it's picking up a little bit more now, but we haven't been the first persons to knock down and say, I need some help or I need support. Typically, there's been a family member, a partner, a friend, somebody encouraging us to seek out help as opposed to us seeking it out on our own.
Yeah, and that's good and all, but I think like men, we have to get comfortable enough with expressing our vulnerability
Mhm.
and being comfortable around other people to know that my brothers or people got me in this corner and that they don't have to feel like they're alone. Like you get like I on my other show, I've been doing this for 3 years, and this is about 7 months now. This is a newly podcast, but I've seen so many sad stories, and I unfortunately, I try to help as many people as I can. If they, connect them with resources in the community. Just being there for emotional support. But there are times where I can't do everything for someone else, and they have to be able to be vulnerable to get that clinical or that see a therapist to get that actual professional help. Like I can only go so far and help you. Unfortunately, I had a friend that died of suicide and he jumped off a cliff. I couldn't connect with that brother anymore because we got into a bad argument. And, his life just kind of spiraled downhill after, you know, I was no longer talking to him because we got into an argument about just me being there supporting him all the time. And I feel like it's never reciprocated. But I guess I never really did the work myself to understand that he was in a lot of emotional support, deeply pain that I could ever, help him with. And sometimes when you have friends and family members that's really in a deep emotional pain, you can't go through, their life and live it and help them grow through it. They have to get the help that they need. Unfortunately, I still talk to his family to this day, but it's like, it's always that strange interaction with them. Just the dirty looks, like you wasn't there for him, but and they right, like I wasn't there to the help that he needed. But again, it's not my job to, if you're going through these issues, psychological or panic attacks, whatever, you have to go to a professional and get help. And he never did. He never did. And that's what's so painful about it because, I tried to reconcile and do all these things with him, but he just never got the help that he needed. And I've been trying to do that. And I get it. It's a lot of stigma in the community, Black community, that they don't want to go to therapy. But it's going to look different for everybody. Sometimes I have my other friends, they don't go to therapy, but we talk all the time. That is their healing and their journey to get better. Sometimes you don't have to see a therapist. But then there are times in extreme cases somebody do need to see a therapist because they need to prescribe them antidepressants or whatever, to help them to kind of cope with life because they're just not getting the support or the needs of the resources that they need to get the help they need. So now I want to switch conversations. How does success, you know, how is it a distraction from pain? How do you think it is?
So for men in particular, we can success our way out of a lot of things. Meaning we can be sad, we can be frustrated, we can be angry. And it's like, you know what? Well, I just earned this new promotion. So let me focus on that. Or I'm starting this business. Yeah, I just went through a bad breakup, but I don't really have time to process those emotions. Let me put in some more hours in this business and see what I can do here. So you can become successful in those areas because you're putting in work there, but what are you avoiding by not, what are you not talking about by putting in all this work over here?
And I'm a living witness, breathing witness of that. Like I was very successful in my IT career. Got to, I've gone through a lot of jobs where people saw my growth and they also saw my lows that I needed to work on. But, I was able to survive 4 years in the industry because, I was willing to learn and sacrifice and, kind of block out a lot of my friends at the time that I have regrets about. And I'm not going to lie, but I needed to, you know, block out those distractions because that was really, those people were trigger points for me. I didn't want to deal with them because of just growing up in the hood and trying to move up, and they want to bring me back down to their same level. But success for me was a distraction because I, was avoiding all the things that I need to talk about with my friends that was struggling just like I was, when I was in my late teens and stuff like that. I didn't want to deal with any of that trauma. That's horrible. Like, who wants to sit there and deal with their trauma? But I think there is power in being vulnerable and actually speaking up for yourself and saying, I need help. I need help. And if I don't get the help, something could happen. That's a very morbid thought, but it's the truth. And, I didn't want to head on deal with all of the trauma that I've seen. Growing up in the hood, you see a lot of violence. You see a lot of gang banging. You have to really have a strong mentality to get through all of that because it's not normal to see someone get shot up 5 times. It's not normal to get someone stabbed in the head 17 times. By her pimp. it's not normal to see all of those things. And I think when men start to really unpack that that's trauma, that's when they can learn to be healed. Because what's the saying? In order to heal, I need to, um, you
You
know,
can't hear what you don't reveal.
yeah, exactly.
Can't hear what you don't reveal. And Darren, that's a lot. That's a lot. And being from Detroit, I've seen things, and sometimes I didn't see it firsthand, but I've heard about a lot of things too. Like I may have just left a party, and then this happened, or maybe I'm at the party, and I see this fight break out, or I see this person get cracked over the head with a bottle, and yeah, that's not normal. It shouldn't happen, especially at the frequency that we saw it. So we begin to normalize it. It's like, oh wow, that happened. Sometimes we laugh about it. Sometimes we just don't talk about it if it's really tough, and we just keep pushing. And going back to the question about success, we'll focus on, well, what can I do so I don't have to think about that? Who can I help so I don't have to revisit those memories? All the while, the stuff that we're stuffing is still playing in the background.
It's gonna come back up
Yeah,
in more than one way.
it's kind of like weeds. When you have a garden or your grass, and you don't really attack the weeds, you just try to keep mowing the grass or watering it, but you really need to put some of that weed eater down and address the root of this problem. Yeah, you can do a quick, mow the grass real quick, 20-30 minutes. You think you solved it. Next thing you know, that problem is getting worse and it's spreading. And that's what happens with our emotions. We don't address the internal pain that we're going through because we're so enamored by this outside success. The more money, the nice cars and the materialistic things. Sometimes we get into certain relationships just because it looks good, not because it feels good. And then that comes back to bite us, long term too.
Yeah. And yeah, like it's a lot of toxic relationships that, I've been in and I have friends been in that, I've seen them at their worst. Like I said, you know what? It's not about that girl. It's about you.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing all of the baggage down. It's like, why I can't never keep somebody? Why they always angry at me? Look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, are you happy, brother? Because you're not happy. You don't have to fool me because I pretend to be happy for so many years until I finally broke down and cried. The first time I ever cried in 25 years.
What was that like for you to finally let it out?
It was horrible. It felt good at the same time, but it felt like just all of the tensions just been felt freedom. It felt like freedom to me. Because you don't understand. I think crying it like releases like a form of dopamine or something like that to release all the toxins and things that was built up in you that you saw or that was happened to you over the years. And it felt good. It felt like it was a cleansing of my soul, you know. That's sad to say.
It,
I haven't
but
cried in 25 years, right?
did you hear that
I
the
know.
clip where Shaq said he doesn't cry or he doesn't do emotions? Did you see that?
Well, I
Okay,
don't
yeah, you
believe
have to
him
go
on
back
that
and look. But so a lot of men, the reason I bring it up is because a lot of men, especially when they've had a lot of accolades and accomplishments in other areas, they will look at crying or expressing themselves in that way as weak. So I know people, and talk to people all the time where they say they haven't cried in, umpteen or decades, or if they do, there's a book I believe by Michael Basin that Men Cry in the Dark,
one. Where nobody can see him.
where nobody can see him, right? So it's like,
Yeah. I was one
yes,
of those people, like, I was going through a lot, bad breakup, family issues, father issues, and it just feels like, you know, it was never going to end. Just the bad things that just kept coming my way one after the other. But, you can't hold on to all of that trauma and bad experiences for so long because your body is going to react to it in other ways. You're going to be violent with your girlfriend or, boyfriend or whoever you're dating. You know, um, you're gonna talk mean to people that you normally shouldn't talk to. It's gonna come out in other ways. Believe me, I've been through this time and time, so I know what I'm talking about. You
So
know,
Dan,
that's
I heard
yeah.
you also say you were successful in your career though,
Hmm.
but internally you had some things you were struggling with.
Yeah, I was. Just trying to process why my father never loved him, and just going back of years of trauma and trying to understand why he never had love. But then got to go around my grandfather, when I was younger, and I kind of see what that dynamic was like between him and how it really impacted him a young as a young boy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, my grandmother said he had a good life. No, he did not have a good life. She was just in denial.
Mm.
She was just in denial about the situation because she knew she didn't like him. She didn't love my father like she loved like my other uncle. She loved him more and she loved my cousin more than she ever loved me and my father. She was just in denial the whole time and she couldn't swear. He had a good life. Everything was perfect.
Yeah.
Well, if everything was so perfect, why did he turn out as a narcissistic, demonic, evil, trifling person?
Yeah. Yeah. Denial is right up there with avoidance. We don't want to see it. It's so much easier to pretend as if things are going okay. It's like that that clip and waiting to exhale when she said
Set it on fire. Yeah.
yeah. Well, when she no that not that one when she said her mom was talking to Whitney. I can't think of the character's name, but she said he's a good man, Savannah.
Hmm.
He's a good man. So she was in denial about the other things because she's like, look what he's done. Look at the life he's providing for you. Do you really want to mess that up because of what you feel?
Yeah. And I think that just going back to my experiences, like she was just in denial about the whole thing. But when he got thrown out of a two-story window, it just kind of solidified what I already knew. Like just having conversations, with my mom, and he's telling the experiences of what he had as a child. I knew something was very dysfunctional, as I got older, when I became in my late 20s. I said, well, that's the reason why you can't, you never can communicate with me. You never could say you love me. You never could, show me any affection because you never was shown love yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Darren, you can't just gloss over that, man. That's huge. Thrown out of a two-story window.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that he's lucky that he survived, but it's just like, um, there's times to me that shows me that my grandfather never loved him because maybe his father never loved him and his father never loved him. It's
So
a
now
generational cycle.
yeah, I was gonna say you have what we call generational trauma.
Yeah,
Let
that's a
me
real thing.
before we kind of conclude, I want to give people a couple of things to think about. If they're like, hey, I'm someone who's struggling with inner pain, but on the outside I'm very successful. What do I do about it? What steps do I take? And I go back to the 3A formula, which is one, the first A stands for awareness. Having awareness about what you've been through. You can do that through journaling, through conversations like of this nature, but you want to be cognizant of what your life is looking like and where you want it to go. The second A is accountability. This is not saying that you are the person responsible for what happened to you, but saying, you know what, now I'm going to take accountability and do something about it. I'm going to seek out a therapist. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to join this support group. I'm going to take my healing and put it in my own hands. And then the last A is for the action. And this is where you become consistent with taking those action steps because a lot of times we'll talk about it, we'll know we need to do something, but then we struggle with the execution part. So if you don't prioritize your wellness, you will be forced to take care of your illness. So prevention is always going to be better than treatment.
And what's some of the side effects of what people that when they don't deal with their internal pain? Can it cause headaches? You
Yeah.
know,
So
body ailments?
on the physical
What's some of the elements?
physical side, you're gonna have the headaches, the body ailments, the sometimes digestive issues. You could be gaining weight, losing weight, and then on the cognitive side, you may find yourself being more irritable, having difficulty focusing. Your relationships, they're not going to thrive in the way that you want them to or the way that they can. And essentially, you're going to look at different facets of your life and you're going to feel stuck. And that stuckness can look different for you, for me, but there are going to be places where you're like, I should be further along, but you're not. You're running up into roadblocks.
Well, I do thank you though for coming on here today. It's been a very good conversation. Where can people find you if they might be looking for counseling themselves, or is it any specific state that you're in that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm licensed in Michigan and North Carolina for therapy, for coaching. I work with people all over the world and definitely on the country.
And are these online or in-person sessions?
Oh, online.
Online. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and they can visit my website, jasonlphillips.com, and they can follow me on social media at jphillipsmsw.
Okay. I'll make sure to grab those links and make sure you subscribe to the channel. This episode won't go out for a while, but like I will send you the link when it does. And I do thank you. And if you know any other Black clinicians or therapists or just general Black men friends that's going through things, make sure to send them my way because I want to keep having this conversation so we can get healed eventually.
Thank you, Daron. Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, brother.
Like pain, now we free from them chains. Heavy hearts, but we're moving through the rain. 3 Black brothers with the weight on their minds. Till we rise, till we shine, till we grind.